Okay, so let's continue with our tokens creation. So we have created the token type. We have created a function that creates a token. So now let's go ahead and validate tokens that are returned by the user. So I will simply check that the plain text token is 26 bytes long. Okay, because that's the size, that's the length of the token that was generated. Okay, so we'll just do validation on that. So I'm gonna say func validate token plain text. Okay, and so of course I need a validator. So we use our validator package, and then of course I need the plain text token. So token plain text, which is of course a string. Alright, so of course you will notice that validator has been imported for us. So make sure you have imported validator. Alright, so let's just do a simple check. Let's check that the token plain text is not an empty string. So if it is an empty string, then of course we'll insert a entry into our errors map, and it will have the message must be 26 bytes long. Okay, so let's do another check to check the actual length. So if it's not empty, it will have some length, and so let's make sure that that length is actually 26 bytes long. So check the length and see if it's 26, and if it's not 26, then of course we will write in an entry, and the entry again will simply be must be 26 bytes long. Okay, so that takes care of our validation. So plain text, right? Great. So let's keep going. So let's just define our token model. So define the token model. Okay, so remember, we need to define a token model so that we are able to get the connection pool for our database, so that we can actually run queries on our database. So I will simply, again, this is quite normal, we've done this many times. So I will say type token model, okay, and then of course we will simply say that it requires a pointer to SQL .db, right? So of course we should import database SQL. All right, it's done for us automatically. All right, so once we have that set up, we can go ahead and write our methods that will access our database table. So let's just create and insert. So we will create and insert a token into the tokens table. And so to do that, we will just create this method that is a method on type token model, and it's going to be called new. And so when we call this method and we give it a user ID, okay, and we give it a time to live, okay, and of course a scope. Okay, it will return a token and an error. Okay, so let's just implement that. And so it's rather straightforward. All I have to do is to call the generate token function, pass in the user ID, pass in TTL, and pass in scope. Now remember, generate token will return a token and an error. So let's just say token, comma, error. Okay, and so all I have to do now is to check for any errors. So if error not nil, then we will simply return nil, signifying that we did not successfully create a token, and of course error. Okay, so assuming that there are no errors, then we will simply go ahead and insert the token into our database. And so to do that, I will simply say insert, and I will send token. So of course we need to go ahead and create the insert method, but we'll do that in a while. And then of course we'll simply return the token and the error. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create the insert method. So insert will write a, I will insert a entry into the tokens table. Okay, so this method actually does the creation, but we will simply call it from new. So new will call generate token, and then it will call insert to insert that token into our table. So how does insert work? Well, just like any other method that we have used that accesses the database, it will be a method on token model. We will call it insert, and we need to provide it with a token. Okay, and it will return an error. Okay, so this shouldn't be very difficult to write. So we're going to create a query. Of course, nothing new here. All right, so should be backticks. All right, that's it. Okay. Okay. And so I will simply say insert into tokens. Okay, and we need to insert into hash, into user underscore ID, into expiry, and into scope. And those values will be $1, $2, $3, and $4. Again, nothing new. Okay, so let's come down here and let's package together our arguments. So we'll simply say args is a slice, and of course it will be a slice of any type. So I'll use interface. Okay. Alright, so token dot hi hash token dot user ID. Alright, so let me just did I put my is it here? Okay, let's see. Alright, yeah, I had my curly brace in the wrong place. Okay, token dot expiry token dot scope. Okay, so these are the values that we're going to use, and so now we will actually create a context, a 3-second context. All right, we've done this many times, so I will say context. Of course, we need the context package, and so we'll say with timeout, and it will be context, of course, that background, and 3 times time dot second. Okay, and then of course we will simply defer our cancel function. All right, great. So notice we have to import context. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's run the actual query. So I will simply say m.db, of course, dot execute context, and we'll pass in the context, and we'll pass in the query and the arguments. Of course, Go will simply put the 3 dots that we need, and then I will simply return whatever error has in it. Okay, and that takes care of our code that we need for this. Okay, so that's how we will create a new token. There's also a need to delete a token. So after the token has been used, then we want to remove that token. All right. Of course, if a user gets deleted, we also want to delete those tokens. So I'll simply say func, of course, token model, and this method will be called delete all for users. Okay, and so of course we need a scope. Okay, and then we need the user ID. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. We'll create our query. Okay, and our query will simply delete from tokens where scope is what is passed in, and the user, so user underscore ID, is $2. Alright, so that's our query. So if we want to delete a particular token, okay, maybe it's an activation token, then we will need to provide activation, and then we will need to provide the user ID, and so we know which token to delete. Again, we need to create a context. I will just copy this. All right. Great. I have my context. And after I have my context, let's go ahead and run the query. Okay. Again, it will say simply be and execute context. And then I'll pass in the context, I'll pass in the query, and I'll pass in the arguments, scope, and user ID. Okay. And then of course I will simply return error. Okay, so that looks like what we need to do. So we have our token model, we have methods that allow us to add tokens, insert tokens into our table, and we have methods to delete tokens from our table. So following the same process as before, I will go to my models file. So where is my models file? Let's see, data models here. Okay, so I have a schools model, I have a users model. Let's create a tokens model. So I'm going to say tokens of type token model. All right, so we have 3 models so far, and so let's initialize token model. So I'll just say tokens will be token model, and we simply need to provide the connection DP. Okay, and so we should be able to run our terminal, our application, and have it work. So let's see if that actually works. Okay, let's close that, close that. Maybe I should just go ahead and type the thing. Okay, let me just type it. Go run dot / cmd / API. Okay, so our server is still running. Alright, so we'll leave it here for this video. In the next video, we need to go back and update our templates to ensure that we send the token that we have generated, the plain text token, to the user when we send them their email. I'll see you in that video.